While Don Jr. was in New York preparing to testify in court, his fiancée, Kimberly, was at the party dressed up as Trump's constituent, Snow White. Don Jr. was not at Daddy Donald's last night. The prodigal son was being grilled as part of the $250 million case against their business. But I did get some exciting news this weekend. According to a new poll from YouGov, which is a serious polling site, or they were before this, I am more popular than the President of the United States.
Jimmy Kimmel just did the unthinkable. He went straight after Don Jr. and Donald Trump in one of the wildest roast sessions ever caught on camera. It wasn't a comedy bit, it was a political explosion disguised as late-night humor. Imagine a family barbecue where the grill explodes, the ketchup catches fire, and no one remembers who invited Kimmel in the first place. What began as harmless jokes turned into a full-blown roast that left the Trumps scorched. And trust me, they won't be laughing after this one.
This month, we'll have International Asexuality Day. I mean, because that's a big one. Don't forget that one, folks. That's basically like Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, all wrapped up into one special, radical, insane Democrat holiday.
No, that's right, folks. And if anyone knows special, it's me, DJ TJ. Remember the guy who keeps saying I have no ratings? Well, that makes two of us. They polled more than 1,000 people, and I lead Trump by 16 points. I'm at +3, he's at -13. It's nice, but it feels like, considering the fact that I'm not a convicted felon friend of Jeffrey Epstein, and I've never paid off a porn star or sent a team of masked goons into a park to pull an old lady away from her grandchildren, I feel like my rating should be higher, maybe, than...
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Because what Jimmy Kimmel just pulled off has the entire internet gasping. Picture this. A late-night comedian accidentally turns into a political demolition crew. His targets: Don Jr. and his father, the former President of the United States. What started as a few playful jokes spiraled into a comedic airstrike where every punchline landed harder than a leaked classified document.
There he is, tiny soprano. I wonder what's going through his head right now.
I should have worn makeup.
Oh, yeah, good one. Here's the thing about Don Jr. What he lacks in intelligence, he also lacks in charisma. So, and as with all cases involving the family Trump, DJ TJ was sworn in on an upside-down Bible. He will finish his testimony tomorrow, and then Eric will testify, and then Trump will claim he's never met either one of them. But it's getting serious.
Kimmel didn't just roast them, he built a bonfire tossed in a few tweets and lit the match with pure sarcasm. It all began with Don Jr., the human equivalent of a Wi-Fi signal that keeps dropping mid-sentence. He stepped into the spotlight again thinking he could handle the heat. But Jimmy had other plans, and he wasn't holding back.
At this point, finding a toenail in your salad has a 7-point lead over Donald Trump. And I hope he doesn't see this. I hate to, I don't like to upset him, but I think he might be upset because the White House put out a statement this afternoon. This is a real statement. Over 77 million Americans showed up on Election Day to cast their ballots for President Donald J. Trump, who is delivering on his overwhelming mandate to put America first. Jimmy Kimmel prays every night to garner a fraction of that support to keep his show on air after ratings dropped 64% last week. Sad. I like sad with an exclamation point. It would make a nice t-shirt with Trump's face on it, wouldn't it?
You could practically hear the PR team praying as Kimmel sliced through the Trump family antics like a chainsaw through butter. He started with Don Jr.'s latest attempt at staying relevant, which as usual involved more enthusiasm than logic. Let's just say, if charisma were currency, Don Jr. would still be paying off debt from 2016.
I'm just proud of the toughest person I've ever met in my entire life for having the backbone and fortitude to go through this whole mess, as uncomfortable as it's been. And I'm proud to have stood there every single second by his side in that freezing cold courtroom. He's an inspiration to me every single day, and he'll be vindicated.
In other words, Daddy, I was there, Don Jr. wasn't. He just showed up today.
Then came the moment everyone was waiting for. Kimmel turned his aim toward Donald Trump himself. You know it's serious when the guy who once cried over a healthcare bill suddenly morphs into a verbal sniper. He didn't just mock him, he dismantled him. Every jab was dipped in irony and launched straight into Trump Tower. The best part? Trump probably loved it. This is a man who treats criticism like caffeine. He can't function without it. Kimmel even called out Don Jr.'s desperate quest for approval from a father whose emotional range is basically a brick wall in a red tie.
You know, sometimes we get so fixated on Trump, we forget there are other disgusting creatures hell-bent on bringing about the end of the world out there. But our president, Metamucil World Peace, is having a pretty good week, or he was anyway. Yesterday, Trump had what was easily the most presidential day of his life. He was front and center on the world stage signing a ceasefire in the Middle East, and then he got home, he started going through the internet, and he just couldn't help himself. Trump made the cover of Time magazine, which he usually loves. You know, before he was president...
That's the beauty of Kimmel's roast. He didn't need to shout. He relied on cold, perfectly timed humor that hit like a slap you didn't see coming. His delivery was smooth, calm, and deadly. He painted Don Jr. as a tragic figure forever chasing his father's shadow, trying to prove he's more than Trump Jr., but always ending up proving the opposite. Then came the metaphors. The Trump brand as an overextended reality show still running long after the plot made sense. By now the internet was melting down, supporters furious, critics ecstatic, and everyone else just enjoying the chaos.
They're eating their cats, they're eating the dogs. Welcome back to the program.
Charlie, I thought this was a conspiracy theory, and like all conspiracy theories, it turns out to be true.
What is going on with that list? A conspiracy theory, you say? Who is conspiring? Immigrants from Port-au-Prince? I mean, I read that they're roasting Irish feathers.
It's disgusting, and it should not be happening in America. It shouldn't be happening anywhere else in the civilized world, but that's the reality. Okay, you look at Haiti, you look at the demographic makeup, you look at the average IQ. If you import the third world into your country, you are going to become the third world. That's just basic. Like, it's not racist, it's just fact.
I don't know, sounds pretty racist to me.
But Kimmel wasn't done. He zoomed out and turned the entire Trump phenomenon into a masterclass in satire, comparing it to a company announcing big wins while secretly losing customers. He joked that Don Jr. defends his dad like a man hypnotized by motivational posters preaching strength and success while the economy's on fire and half the cabinet's resigning. The more serious Don Jr. tried to sound, the more comical he became, and Kimmel knew it.
He had fake Time magazine covers hanging on the walls of his golf club, for real. But this one, I guess, conjured up some mixed feelings because of the photo they used. It's upset him so much that at 1:36 a.m. he posted, Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. Now, I want to go back to that cover and show you this crown. Okay, that's not a crown. That's the letter M. Only he would see an M on his head and assume it's a crown. If that's not an M, you're on the cover of Time magazine, okay?
Then came the masterpiece Kimmel's global perspective. He turned inflation into a punchline, the border crisis into a failed family vacation, and foreign diplomacy into a toddler's lemonade stand. Every issue became comedy gold, not because it was funny, but because the reactions were. It was cathartic watching a comedian dismantle political absurdity with humor sharper than most journalists' analysis. The backlash only fueled him. The more Trump loyalists shouted bias, the more his point landed.
The other sniveling MAGA turd who has a weird twist on our president's name is Don Jr.
Check this out. Joe Biden. 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 Joe Biden has dementia.
That's right. He's the one with the dementia. That's right. It's like he got bitten by a radioactive morning zoo or something. Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Here in LA, school is out for the summer.
Meanwhile, Don Jr. ran to social media to set the record straight, which historically never ends well. His posts sounded like someone who got roasted at dinner and decided to email the waiter about it. He tried to spin it as a win, but by then the memes had taken over. And of course Trump jumped in too, because he always does. The man who built his brand on insults suddenly couldn't take a joke. Irony doesn't get richer than that.
being honored for wearing that tie down to your knees. Every morning is a game of who am I mad at today? Is it the Cracker Barrel logo? Is it windmills? Is it Bad Bunny? Is it the Nobel Prize? Or is it the turkey vagina slapping around over my chest? I'm not sure we're even allowed to show his neck on TV. Wouldn't it be funny if the FCC fined us for showing his neck on TV? Trump went on, I never like taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why? It's like he's a TikTok influencer yelling at her boyfriend for not knowing her angles.
By the end, Kimmel's jokes revealed something deeper. The tragic comedy of a family obsessed with dominance. The more they fought for power, the more cartoonish they looked. Don Jr.'s endless campaign for validation and Trump's addiction to attention both unraveled under Kimmel's steady grin. He didn't destroy them with anger, he exposed them with perspective.
He's being held responsible for making safety last, but fortunately for him, he's got an ardent defender in one Donald J. Jr.
Pete Buttigieg, you saw in the clip earlier, he's taking some personal time because, 19 days isn't enough time. Plus the time he spent chest feeding while we were in the midst of a supply chain crisis and 350 million Americans were depending on him to do his damn job. But there is no accountability. There's not even the expectation of these guys doing their jobs.
And what is your job exactly? I mean, seriously, besides yelling at your laptop, what is it that you do for a living? What do you write on your tax return, son? Donald Trump Jr. is the only guy in America who claims himself as a dependent.
So when people say Jimmy Kimmel destroyed Don Jr. and Trump, it wasn't about humiliation, it was about exposure. He held up a mirror and what stared back was ego, absurdity, and a crumbling myth of invincibility. The roast wasn't cruel, it was honest. A reminder that laughter can strip away power faster than outrage ever could.
Meanwhile, the president has been doing his part to bring the two sides together by calling one of the sides the party of hate, evil, and Satan. Hate, evil, and Satan. And that's why they call him the peace president. Teddy Roosevelt had a press conference / pity party today. He bitched and moaned and patted himself on the back so many times he almost dislocated his shoulder. He played all the hits. He bragged about winning the elections in Georgia in 2016 and 2024. He again claimed the election was stolen from him in Georgia in 2020. The blaming and the bragging, he cannot stop.
In the end, Kimmel didn't exaggerate the chaos, he highlighted it. Watching Don Jr. defend his father is like watching someone defend a volcano for erupting. He called it passion as the lava burned down half the country. Kimmel found the disconnect between the image and the insanity and turned it into art. Because in politics, power might make you untouchable but never unmockable. The moment you take yourself too seriously, someone like Jimmy Kimmel is waiting with a smirk, a punchline, and the truth disguised as comedy.